Connect with our team at iliveradio.com or follow us at iLiveRadio across social platforms.
The number one hit music station.
You're listening to iLive Radio, changing the way you listen to radio. iLive Radio.
Hello, 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 and welcome. This is Donna Savage with Talk with Savage Desires. Thank you for joining me tonight at iLive Radio. So, in the meantime, let's talk about what the topic is going to be. So, COVID. COVID is rampant right now in our universe. And what's happening is the children are spending so much time on social media, right? And I was reading yesterday and I'm realizing that child exploitation is on the rise in Canada alone. So, this is the reason why I am bringing in my guest, Natalie Comery, also known as AKA as Ask Donna Marie, because she is an expert in child rearing counseling. She is just she that's just right up in her alley, and I believe that she would be the perfect person to talk about what's going on with her children and what's the best way for us to, as adults and parents, to talk to our children about intercourse or sex, and at what point can we be really authentic with our children, because the internet has gone a way that one click can take them anywhere. I remember several years ago, I think my son was 10 years old, and I said to him, let's have the conversation of the birds and the beats. And he looked at me at 10 years old and tell me he can teach me. He knows more than I do because everything is over the internet. So as parents, we want to start bringing it at home and start having that first conversation with our children versus them going out into the world of internet or social media or hearing it from their children or from their friends. So let's have that conversation. Let's talk about it. Let's start monitoring our children on the internet, because right now that's all they're doing. I mean, they're at home and they're constantly on the computer, and you never know where they'll be, clicking and clicking and clicking, and where it would take them to. So tonight's episode is, when is the best time to talk to our children about sex or adulting? Because I know their little brains is going all over the place based on, the commercials or friends who's a little bit more older than them, and their adulting behavior before it's time for them to be adults. So in the meantime, you are listening to I Live Radio Toronto. My name is Donna, and we are she's not on yet. Okay, in the meantime, we're waiting for our guest. So basically, if anyone is listening, please chime in, ask if you can. We have a phone number that they can call into, right? Yes? No? Yeah? What's the phone number? So just in case you want to chime in and see what's the best way that you talk to your children about sex and sexuality, and because we want to be parents, we want to be the ones that are teaching our children. For anyone that wants to chime in, the best number to call us is 647-694-5134. And for those who are just joining, we're going to be talking about the best time to talk to our children about sex, because honestly, just Googling today, I decided to just, Google, sex, or what is sex, and the link took me all over the place. So if this is happening for me as an adult, just imagine what's going on with our children, because you're a curious mind. And when the internet is like, it's like crack. The longer you stay on there, the longer you stay on there, it's the more information you're going to have, because something's going to always pop up. Some things are always going to be popping up, and you're wondering what's going on, and they're going to keep following the link, and they keep following the link, and it's going to take them places that as parents we don't want them to get to. Thank God my children are older, so it's not that bad for me. So, but for those young mothers, are you speaking to your children about sex and sexuality? And or if they're having any questions, we want to be that place that children can come to us and have a conversation. We want to be that first person. But I'm going to be honest with you, the way things are right now, we probably aren't. Kids don't want to hear about the birds and the bees. The words have changed so much, right? So children are looking into, what's kissing, what's sex, why do I feel this way? What's going on? And as adults, we need to be adulting and actually have a conversation, a true, authentic conversation with our children, right? Because we don't want to lead them astray. Because there's so much things out there in so many different areas and so many different programs that's going to teach your children, right? And we don't want that lesson to be taught by somebody else. I think it's better for parents to have that conversation rather having it with someone else or any other children telling them what's going on, right? So in the interim, Natalie hasn't joined us yet. So we're still waiting for her. So again, so in the meantime, my program is about sex and sexuality from every form. It's about knowing self, understanding self, being obedient, being mindful, being present, right? So we're trying to, we want to lead the society in understanding that it's okay to be aware of what's going on and ask authentic questions about, about self or where your mind wanders to, or it's so we're trying to unlearn so many things, but there's so much noise in our head. You're wondering sometimes, what I'm thinking, if it's the real thing. But the thing about it is, as a person, we know what is right from what is wrong. We don't need somebody to validate, because it comes with self, right? So she's not here yet. I don't know what's going on with her. Let's see what's going on. You want me to call her?
Just got to call the station.
Okay, so meanwhile, she's putting up her hand. Nothing. Okay. What's the number again? 647? You gonna do this for me? So Natalie, if you're listening, we're gonna let you call the station. So we're putting in the number. Just use that number and call in, so you won't be on screen. So we'll just have the conversation online. We're gonna get better, guys. We are going to get better at this. Practice make perfect. Oh my God. So meanwhile, we're waiting, so again, we're going to be talking about when's the best time to have that adulting conversation with our children, at what age, should we see how mature they are? Because, you have some more mature 10-year-olds, you have very mature 10-year-olds, and you have really 10-year-olds that's not mature enough to have that conversation. But at least we need to be gentle and figure out at what point or what are we going to speak to these children about? Because I have 8-year-old grandkids, and they are at the point that it's time for their parents to start sitting and speaking to them, because the school is doing it anyways, right? So a lot of things is going on that we don't want this. You know what? When my kids were going to school, it's based on school now and their curriculum. It's definitely changed. It has definitely changed. And a lot of the things that you're talking about, I personally don't believe into it. And I don't want to go too much because I want to have Natalie chime in onto this. Let me just forward this to her again. All right, so meanwhile we're waiting for Natalie. I think she was a little bit confused, so she's waiting for you to send it to her. I don't know what's going on. Anyways, we sent her the number.
Are you still on there?
Nothing.
Are you still on there?
Hmm?
Are you still on there?
Yeah, I'm on. Yeah, it's okay. It's definitely going to get better. She's on the phone or? Yeah. Okay. So Natalie is going to be popping on any moment now. Oh my God. So is she on yet?
Hi.
Natalie.
Hi. I don't know what was
her.
happening. You can't hear me?
Natalie, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Perfect. Wow, Natalie. We're going to get it better one of these days. Trust me.
Hey, everything's a learning process. So I was making sure I came on Zoom because I look good.
Well, thank you for joining me, Natalie, aka Ask Donna Marie. So, Natalie, I was rambling on about the reason why I decided to choose this topic because I've been researching a lot, and because of the whole COVID pandemic thing, what's going on is children are in on the internet 24/7, not 20%, but you know what I mean, right? And
Right.
reading this, child exploitation is on the rise in Canada due to the pandemic, right? So we do not want social media and everybody else be bombarding our children and talking about sex and giving
Right.
them information. So who better to talk to? Because I know you're a counselor and a life coach. So who better to talk to in asking you, Natalie, you're asking you about children and when is the best time for a parent to have that talk with our children and how
Right.
can these parents go with these children, because it's not like our days when we talk about the birds and the bees. It has changed a lot. But before we dive in, Natalie, just please tell me a little bit about yourself.
So there's so much about me, but so Natalie Comrie asked Donna Marie. So I run a counseling service and I motivational speak, and I do a ton of workshops with youth and women to
Mhm.
help motivate them and get them on their journey to the right path, whether it's self-awareness, self-confidence, even just personal counseling to get them on the right path,
Mhm.
and deal with some of the things that they're dealing with on a daily basis. And during this climate as well, it's very important to deal with your mental health and
Mhm.
your emotional well-being during these times, but even after.
Mhm.
And really trying to promote uh, black people going to counseling and really taking that seriously and their mental health seriously in a way that will better them.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Natalie. So, Natalie, when is the best time as a parent to talk to our children about the act of sex?
The act of
The
sex or
act,
sex in general?
the feeling, because first of all, as children growing up, their body's going to be changing, right? So
Right.
we want to talk about the changes that our bodies are going through. You know,
Okay, so this is a twofold question, and I want to break it down just a little bit.
break it
So
down.
the first part was when to talk to your kids about sex.
Hmm.
Right away.
Right. What do you mean right away?
Right away.
Break that down.
So I'm going to break it down. There's stages of sexual orientation, sexual curiosity that kids go through. You know, it starts from as young as 1 and all the way up. And what the issue is, parents are not talking to their kids during these stages and not helping them with the developmental stages that they're going through, right? So, for example, what you're talking to a 1 year old or a 2 year old up to 5, what you're talking to them about is their body. What different types of what is the penis? What is the vagina? You know, their different organs on their body is what you start to talk about, right? And as they get older, you're increasing the conversation, whether it be talking about, okay, you know, Joey has this, Billy has that. You're having those conversations, and then you're talking about consent. So consent starts at an early age. Who is not allowed to touch you? Who is allowed to touch you? What is appropriate touch? You're having those conversations from your child is 1.
From your child is 1. So by the child is 1, and most parents, I'm assuming, are going to be definitely telling their kids what the body parts are.
Right.
That's right. So you know what, you know what statement we want to change. We want these parents to actually tell these kids that the correct name of their anatomy.
I
No,
was just about to say that.
no more makeup names.
Right.
Right?
Right. And
Okay.
that's important because, you know, what would be a chocho to me would be something else to somebody else. And remember, these kids are going to school and,
Mhm.
you know, we want to make sure that they understand and they're protecting themselves in the right way with the right correct name for their anatomy.
Okay.
Right. So it is very important to really identify what that name is and how to protect it, because if you say to your daughter, don't have no one touch your chocho, there's so many names for it, and then they go to school and somebody says, oh, can I touch your vagina, and they don't know,
Hmm.
that's confusing to them. So the correct name for the anatomy is super, super important.
Very important. Thank you for that, Natalie. So in school, now, it's such a big confusion because what we learned in school is we have boys, we have girls. But now here we are in a society that things has changed. Now we're talking
Right.
about gender identity. We're talking about non-binary. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
for old school parents like myself who know about only male and female, girls and boys, and then your kids are coming home with this, oh mom, this person is a non-binary. What the hell is a non-binary? You know what I mean? Then you have these bathrooms and you're not a girl. You're not identified as a girl. So again, you have one topic at school and then you come home, you have another topic. I mean, how are we gonna just give us an example how you think we should bridge that? Because I know the competition in school is different than when they come home.
Right. The best way to bridge it in anything that we do is educate ourselves, right? So the school system put out a whole educational plan of how they're going to teach the kids in school about sex and what they're going to teach them, going from the whole curriculum, going
Mhm.
from kindergarten all the way up to grade, I believe it was um, grade 8,
Mhm.
of the whole curriculum of what they're going to teach your child. Get familiar with that. Understand what they're going to give your child. And the teachers are really good that they're able to, or what the school is doing and the board is doing is sending out these letters before they're teaching the kids so that parents are aware of what their kid is going to be taught. And they have the opportunity to say, you know what, no, it's not for me, and pull their child out. But I feel like the best way to really educate your child or to be prepared for those questions that come home is educate yourself. Understand what the curriculum is doing. Uh, Google is a friendly thing. Not everything is right on Google, but Google it. What is non-binary? What is the different type of genders, and how are you going to explain that? And how do you want to explain that to your child so that they understand and that they're able to ask the questions and open that door, and you have that door open to have those questions asked. So educate yourself.
Okay, so it's really nice that you're saying to educate yourself as parents, but it can be so confusing for our children. You know what I mean? As a West Indian
Hmm.
parent, you know what I mean? We're boys and girl, and we have this real hardcore paradigm in saying no, no, no. You know what I mean? Even if we decide to pull our children out of that particular curriculum when you're talking about the different genders and feelings and so forth, they're going to have friends who have been to that class, you know?
Right.
And it sounds nice when you're saying to educate ourselves. Yeah, we're going to educate ourselves, but we're not going to educate ourselves about the whole non binary and the gender identity because we don't believe, or I'm speaking in general. A lot of
Right.
us
Right.
don't believe in about the whole thing. We are boys and we're girls. Girls have breasts, boys don't have. Girls have vagina, boys have a penis. And that's how we know. So as much as we want to educate ourselves, it's as if, we're back is against the wall. So the kids are learning one thing from either school or their friends, and then they come home and mom and dad and relative are telling them something else. And I think as children, we don't want to confuse them because the world is so confusing already on its own, you know? So it's just like, Natalie, it's like, and I know you have a lot of clients and I know you can probably talk them through it because as a parent myself, sometimes I don't know how to reach that conversation, because here I am telling them one and I'm open-minded and I'm okay with that. But as a young child, young adult, babies, whatever you want to call it, young, how are we going to explain, okay, so your teacher is saying that and they're going to say, so it's the teacher's wrong. You know what I mean? But we don't want to make it look like the teachers are wrong. So what I'm trying to say is, Natalie, how is the best way to make this conversation nice and flowy?
Okay. So there's no, with everything that's going on with the world, and, people are finding themselves, and some people are non-binary and sticking to that label. And, there's the lesbian, the gay, the LGBTQ community in a whole there's so many layers, and it can be confusing. To be honest, working in the field, and really trying to wrap my head around it. It is confusing. So for me, I
And
ask
this
a
is
lot.
Emily King, and you're listening to iLive Radio.
The internet's number one on the World Wide Web. iLive Radio.
You're listening to iLive Radio. This is Jay Most. Enjoy.
How you doing? What's good? It's Nkechi the Lyrical, sitting in my zone here, vibing and listening to iLive. And if you don't know, get to know. And if you do know, you don't know. And if you know, then relax and enjoy the ride.
Attention à tous les musiciens, groupes, associations, clubs et organisations qui représentent les styles collectifs de musique à travers le Canada. Le moment est venu de reconstruire nos genres de nations musicales collectives comme le hip-hop, le R&B, le jazz, le soul, le reggae, le gospel et plus unis. La Nation de la musique collective est une organisation à but non lucratif engagée dans le développement de la musique collective. Des adhésions gratuites sont disponibles dès maintenant. La Nation de la musique collective, une seule voix, la force dans l'unité.
Nothing makes you look, feel, and perform better than a tailor-made suit. Just like a tailor-made suit, a mortgage is not a one-size-fits-all solution. Canadian Tailored Mortgage Solutions will customize a mortgage to perfectly suit your needs. Come and get fitted for your mortgage today at 1-877-834-9346 or reach us on the web at ctmortgagesolutions.com. COVID safety protocols are in place. Brokerage license number 13228.
You're listening to iLive Radio.
Here are some words of wisdom. Don't change your station. Don't change your station.
Welcome back, Natalie. Thank you so much. So for those who are joining me, you are listening to iLive Radio Toronto, and we have expert speaker Natalie, aka Ask Donna Marie. We are talking about when is the right time as parents to introduce our children to sex and the world, the new world right now. We talked about the whole school system and how smooth and transition it can be if you have a good conversation with the teachers. And so right now we're back. So I want to hear what Natalie had to say because we kind of was abruptly interrupted.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. We're talking about, the different layers of, the LGTB community. Sorry, I think I mashed that up, but there's different layers. And a part of it for me working in the world is I ask a lot of questions because I have a ton of clients that are identifying with that. So I have to know. And it's not realistic for, like you said, for parents to dive into that world and kind of dig that up.
Mhm.
But at the same time, asking questions is the only way that we're going to learn, because when we're combated with what is happening at the school and then your kids come back to you and they're asking those questions, we got to be prepared to answer and be supportive for our children. And I know when the curriculum first came in, my son was in grade, I would say 4. So I was getting a lot of questions and I had to dive in. I had to figure out, okay, how am I going to answer this? Because I want to create a space that, I'm not just using my own biases to create his own, right? Or any of my children's own biases. I find that important because at the end of the day, as much as we want them to be these people that we mold and create, they're going to be their own people. And we got to just respect that, we've created a foundation that they're standing on, but we have to have that space open for them to be themselves, whatever themselves is going to be. We just have to hope that they're going to be positive people in society. So we really have to learn. We really have to check our own biases, ask ourselves those questions on, yes, culturally, this is what was told to me. Yes, culturally, this is what I believe. But how am I going to be able to support my child with the questions that they ask? Because at the end of the day, even though if we go back a little that, culturally, this is what we expect. If you think about it, a lot of Caribbean culture, African culture did not get the sex talk. Right? They weren't privy to having those open conversations. If we take a poll of all the people that really spoke to their parents about sex, it will be a really low poll.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't we try to change that narrative and open up our minds, check our biases at the door, and have these conversations with our kids so that they're able to walk through that door and ask us the questions that they need to ask.
You know what? I really love what you just said, Natalie, in the terms of that parents need to have the conversation with children. Natalie, in the kind of business that I'm in, and you are in as counselors and as leaders in our community, most homes, and I'm going to say most home, Caribbean or not, North American, we don't even like to talk about sex, period.
Yep.
As you said earlier, to even call your anatomy chocho and something else and the actual word, which is vagina, that's a big no-no. So here,
Right.
again, there's the stubbornness and the need to not want to change, right? And as much as I preach about being open and authentic about your feelings and about raising ourselves and raising our boys and our girls to be amazing women and men, there's just not enough of us right now to talk about that conversation, right? Because,
Absolutely.
so at hand right now, I feel that and the reason why I spoke about this, Natalie, is I feel that these children are just battling. We all say that they have their own path to lead, but when you have all these things being bombarded at you, coming at you, and don't, they're not going to want to have the conversation with their parents because
Absolutely.
parents don't even want to sit and listen. So
Yep.
how are we going to get that? They don't even want to go. I love the fact that you mentioned earlier to go speak to the school, but because when you go to a school, you're already defensive about the whole topic.
Yep.
So you're not listening, you're going to argue. So we want
Hmm.
to with the movements that you're having and talking to these parents, and I've been to a lot of your sessions, so I know how you teach. If we could have a camaraderie of a community, and we're not talking Black community period, because it's a everybody thing right now in terms of how are we going to speak to our children lovingly, or not even speak but ask. I think we're at a point right now we need to ask, what is it
Right.
that you know, or what is it that you want to talk to us about, and here I am speaking. Back in the days, probably I wouldn't even want to hear it. It's with it's
Yeah.
with growth, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
No, and as leaders, Natalie, because we are leaders in our community, especially in the area that we live in. I mean, we are leaders in the community. What do you think about just putting up, I don't know, maybe suggest open forums in the school if it opens, because I don't know what the hell is going on right now, but maybe not for the semester, but ongoing, about talking to parents about how to deliver certain things to our children. So we're not speaking down to them with a finger. We're actually having conversation because they're little humans.
Right. Absolutely. And, there is a lot of schools that are taking that initiative to now communicate with parents so that they're able to um, guide parents to how to speak to their children about whether it's sex, drugs, whatever the case may be, those hard topics, those
Mhm.
topics that they stray away from. There's a lot of schools right now. Obviously, COVID has turned a lot of things upside down, but I know there's platforms and online platforms that in our community and in the Durham community where I'm at, that are speaking to parents to help them navigate through that. There's a ton of blogs. This is what I'm saying. There's things out there, and it's for the parents to seek it out. And what the problem is with seeking it out is the biases that they have in their own mind about whatever the situation is, whether it's sex. Like, we carry baggage
Yes, we do.
that we're not realizing that we're carrying, and that we're taking that out on our kids, not meaning to.
Mhm.
So the sexual trauma that we may have had in our past, that we've had to that we're not able to check at the door, or even put in a place or deal with it,
Mhm.
we're taking that on our kids and lacking that communication.
Mhm.
For me, I had to really check those biases. I had to dig deep on my baggage. I had to look at my sexual trauma,
Mhm.
because in order to break that cycle, I had to do the work, so that I'm able to open that door. And what actually helped me, where I learned to start talking about sex to youth, was not with my children. It was working in the group home. And we had different portfolios that we had to go on. This was years ago, about 20 years ago, when I was in my 20s. Actually, I'm 21, so never mind that. But when I was working at the group home, basically we had different portfolios that we had to go on, right? And I got stuck with one of the life skill portfolios talking about sex. And I was like, oh my God, like, what? I have to talk to these boys that look bigger than me about sex? Like, this is crazy. So at that time, there was no Google or research or whatever. It was a lot of reading that I had to do on how to communicate with them. And what I found was just communicating with them was my biggest hurdle that I had to do. And once as I did that, I opened up the door that I was getting questions that you would not believe. Then I started just creating programs after that in every group that I spoke to that kept them asking, kept them, being open and having them practice that safe sex, because in an environment as a group home, that's one of the first things they go to because they're already in such a hurt place, so they're trying to find love in all different types of places. So it was very eye-opening for me, and that's where I learned to speak to teenagers, especially about sex. So for me, bringing that into my own life and speaking to my kids, it became easier. And everybody laughs at me that, oh my gosh, you just talk to them like that? Yeah, because how else am I gonna?
You know what I love what you just said is that you have to do the work and realizing that we have to release trauma from self, because that's where it belongs. It belongs with self, and we have to take ownership and release so much baggages. As you said, everybody has baggages. And what we were taught from our parents is what we're instilling on our children, but not realizing that, it's a different day and age. Back in the days, we used to talk about the birds and the bees. If I go and ask my kids what the bird and the bees, and I say, what the hell is that? What the hell is that?
Exactly.
Right? Those are not existent anymore.
Yeah.
No? So
No, it's not. It's not. And that's how I was taught too. And,
yes.
it's not even just checking yourself. I know when I was really doing the work on my sexual trauma as well, I approached my mom and I said, I don't think you talked to us about sex. And she was so honest. And, anybody that knows my mom, she is a very honest person. And she's like, no, I didn't, because I didn't know how. It was one conversation that happened when we were 10. She got a book at the library called something about learning about the birds and the bees, if I don't recall. Read us that book, and that was it. So it's really checking yourself, going back to your parents and having that open dialogue with them, because having that uncomfortable, as an adult, having that uncomfortable conversation with your parents on, hey, you didn't, why didn't you? And breaking that cycle really helps. So when I was able to do that, it opened up a whole new world for me.
I love that, and you're correct. Parents never did. I never had that conversation with my parents. I remember once as a child, I think I was just playing with my breast and my vagina. I can't remember. And I got told up by my grandmother, don't touch that. So they traumatize us with, but guess what? You can't even blame them, because that's the way they were taught.
That's the way they were taught. Yeah.
But we have taken the choice and said, you know what? No, it wasn't a very comfortable place for us. So we had taken the choice. And this is the thing, what I love about choices. We have choices. We have choices in the way we think, how we grow our children, and what is it that we want to do and where we're going. So
right.
you made a choice that, you know what, I'm going to unlearn everything, the whole sexual trauma thing, have a conversation with your mother, and now you're portraying it to your children. And you have amazing kids. So no one can tell them anything on the road, right?
Yeah.
So if somebody's saying this, I said, no, this is what my mom says. Because who did I trust?
Exactly. And I think it's so important, and I preach this all the time. You've probably heard me say it before that, people always say, kids have all sorts of influences, and they do. They do. Like, they have their friends. Now we have social media and all that stuff. But the number one influence in your child's life is the primary guardian / parent. And once as we really understand what our role is, we'll understand how valuable we are in their life. What adult right now that if their parents are alive, that are not still seeking out their parents' advice and seeking out what they need from their parents. I'm a 40-year-old woman and I'm still doing that, so parents will remain and continue to remain the biggest influence, even if it's negative, but that's a whole totally different conversation. But even if that parent is a negative influence in their life, and trust me, a lot of my clients, this is the stuff that we're tackling, even when their parents are negative, how influential they are in their life and the role that they play in their life. So if we start to understand that, conversations get bigger and better and open.
Yes.
So that we're able to, because once you're raising your child and you're the parent, as the child hits 21, 22, you become more of a confidant friend.
Yeah.
Right. And in order to do that, you got to go through those steps and those developmental patterns that they're going through with them. But you also have to go through them yourself.
You know what? I love what you just said, that, when a young adult or a child, 21, 22, they become friends. But Natalie, it has changed so much. I think at the minute the kids are running up and down now, maybe 7, 8, some parents are thinking that at 7 or 8-year-old, you and your child are friends. So when you guys, your child are friends, you're acting certain ways, you're doing all of this thing, so you're not parenting, you're friending, because it's two different disciplines right there. Totally different disciplines, right? So if you're going to be friending your children at such a young, tender age, how are they going to think, she's my mother? But okay, let me rephrase it. So they're friending these young children, but not talking about the important things. What they're talking about is the way that they dress and what they acquire. So it's all physical and material things, right? So those are the conversations that they're having with these children, not on the basis of, let's talk about our body and what's going on.
And I think that is the mistake a lot of parents make, is creating those boundaries. And again, those are personal things that parent is portraying on their child, that, the reasons why you have a child, whether you need a best friend, you need somebody that's going to be there for you for the rest of your life. Like, it's really a self-check, a self-awareness type of thing. And I'm always, anybody that knows me, I go back to self-awareness. Self-awareness is so important because it gears you through life. If you're not understanding your motives, your desires, your values, your beliefs, how is anybody else going to?
Exactly.
So you have to connect with self. So if you're already blurring those boundaries, and I've seen it, I see it right now. I see, mothers kind of connect with their daughters in a way that is not really adding growth to their daughter. It's a friendly thing. So, but that doesn't mean you can't play with your child. Playing is totally different than creating those boundaries that, hey, I'm mom and your daughter. You're not 21, 25 yet, that we're going to have these in-depth conversations and you're living your life, and that, again, that's a self-check. You need to check yourself and see why you're doing that stuff and why you're in that space, because as the child gets older, the child will not depend on you to help them through those problems or come to you as somebody that they need help from.
I really love what you're saying about the whole self-check and self-awareness. And you know what, to be honest, I think some of these adults are portraying what on themselves onto these children,
Absolutely.
Because for many years, I think they're lacking. So now here comes mini me. Let me talk about mini me. So this is mini me. So I'm going to be giving you the things that wasn't gifted or given to me by my parents. So instead of adulting, as you were saying, they're just looking at the whole physical thing versus, because I realize that too, like people don't play with their children anymore.
No.
They're just so busy.
Yep.
You're just so busy with the wrong things. Before we go, Natalie, because I know I wanted to talk to you about the 5 most important things as parents that as a parent we should be talking to our children about.
So I always have tips, me. I think tips are such a great way. It's such a great way to gear ourselves. And I love people to take something away from anything that I'm speaking about, right?
Natalie, not to interrupt you, but before we're going to tip, I think I'm going to talk about the tip after our commercial break, which is going to happen in a couple minutes.
Okay.
But before it's not happening right now, I'll give you a heads up when it's coming. But so I know there's going to be about 5 or 6 knowing you. So before we do that, we're going to be talking about quickly the internet. right? Because we know that right now it's the face where her children are spending so much time on because of
Right.
school, right? As a parent, and I know you have young adults, do you put like a security block on your computer, or at least watch their history? Because this is where a lot of exploitation of our children is happening right now.
Definitely put some safeguards on your computers, on your tablets, on your phones, on all the gadgets that these kids are using. Put these safe blocks up because anybody can get in. There was something on TikTok a few months ago that it was somebody killing themselves on TikTok, and basically there's a huge warning. It was on Facebook and TikTok, and like a huge warning because kids are killing TikTok, and who wants their kid to see somebody killing themselves? Like, this is the way the world works. It's just so crazy to me. But put those safeguards up. Watch what they're doing. Be interactive. Because everything is so social media now, you got to be a part of it. I have teenagers and I still have their Instagram connected to my phone. I can go in at any time. I can go on their messages. I choose not to because we do have that open relationship. But for my peace of mind, I feel like I need to just safeguard you from certain things that are going on, because at the end of the day, teenagers are dumb. And like, it's a real life fact. Like, their brain does not fully develop until 22, so
You can't tell them that, you know that, right?
they don't, because they're dumb. They don't know it. Like, they don't understand it, and you have to protect them in any which way possible and teach them. So that's why I'm constantly having these conversations. I made my son do a presentation in grade 7 on human trafficking.
Wow, that's very important. So Natalie, we're gonna go on commercial break just now. So just stick a pin in that conversation, and we're gonna go back. I want to talk about the whole thing. We want to talk about the whole.
This is Adrena, and you're listening to iLife Radio, changing the way you listen to radio, to radio, to radio, to radio, to radio.
Hey, this is Bay Bright, the bad boy indie soul, Bright Vision Entertainment CEO, and you're chilling, listening to iLive Radio. Keep it locked, keep it locked, keep it.
This is Cheryl Brooks, and you're listening to iLive Radio, supporting independent artists and their music.
Hello, I am Erica, and you're listening to iLive Radio with some of the best independent artists from around the world.
What up? It's your girl Shanaz, and you're listening to some of the best independent soul music from around the world with iLive Radio.
This is Miss Care, keeping you connected with your iLive 5x5. Brought to you by iLive Music, sponsored by Independent Hype, and powered by The Hook Entertainment. Contribute to the conversation by using hashtag iLive5x5.
For the latest and greatest in soul music and more, stay tuned to iLive Radio throughout the week.
Connect with our team at iliveradio.com or follow us at iLive Radio across social platforms.
You're listening to iLive Radio, www.iliveradio.com.
Welcome back, Natalie. Thank you for holding off on all that commercial.
No problem.
Awesome.
I'm here.
So for those who are joining me, you are joining iLive Radio live right here in Toronto with Natalie Comrie, this beautiful, beautiful expert on self and parenting and the whole 9 yards, and she has definitely blessed us with so much information. So to be honest, you guys have to go and do it on the replay and listen all over again. So now, there's a couple of things that I want to talk to you about, but before, because we only have like 15 minutes left, I want you to so I kind of want you to go through the tips,
right?
And then if we have enough time, then I want to touch on the whole trafficking aspect of things.
Great. So like I said, I love doing tips. I think it's a great way to kind of get people focused and understanding exactly what we're saying. So I have 6. It was funny that you said it was funny that you said that, because I do have 6 tips. So number 1, be honest be open. Okay. And that's about our personal story as well. You don't obviously have to go into great details of what your sexual experience was, but I think it's something so important to really communicate that, hey, I was 15, 16, 17, 18 before. And here's who I dated, here's what happened, and bring them through that story. History tells us a lot, and why not share your history with your kids so that they're able to really understand that, hey, mom and dad are human and they've had these experiences and they understand what's going on. So be honest, be open. Number two, allow them to ask questions at any time. Now, this is a trick one. You'll get some kids that you'll be talking to them, and at that point they don't have any questions. And then when you're ready to go to bed, or if you're in a group of people, like that's when they'll find the comfort to come and ask you the question to kind of throw you off guard. Say, hey, see, you don't even want to answer my questions anyway.
I got you.
And answer those questions at that time. I'm so, you know me, I fly off the mouth. Like if you're going to ask me something in the group of friends, all right, sit down. All of my friends are going to tell you this now, so my kids know a little bit better about that. But sometimes they do it in the quiet moments as well, when they think that you're going to say, oh, never mind, I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Gotcha.
Allow them to ask those questions at any time, right? And even if you answer a portion of it and bring it back to the next day, acknowledge the question so that you're able to keep that door open.
Okay.
This is an important one. When talking about sex, and you had mentioned it earlier in our conversation, saying don't. Avoid saying don't. Like you're closing the door right away when you said don't get pregnant, don't get a disease, don't have sex. Like you're already closing the door. Once as you say don't, it's opening up the door on the other end for them to ask friends, ask people that you may not trust that's in your village or not in your village. And it's just not okay. Avoid saying don't. Let's protect our kids. You don't want them to get pregnant. How can we do that?
All right.
Let's have that conversation. You don't want them to get a disease. How can you do that?
Okay.
Let's talk about that. Teach your kids how to use condoms. Teach your kids about birth control, especially your female daughters. Like, I think it's very important. We always go to, okay, let's teach our males how to use condoms, but not talk to the females on how to use a condom.
So, Natalie, I know you want to embellish on all of this, but can we just speed it
up? Sorry, my bad. That was number 3. Number 4, talk often, talk early. So like we mentioned before, you talk early and you're building up to those bigger conversations, so talk often. Have those, throw bombs. I throw bombs all the time.
Of course.
Number 5, meet them where they are. And we spoke about this already. Meet them where they are, age appropriate. So for a 2-year-old, that's what you're doing. For a 5, 6, 7, meet them where they are. Talk to them at that age.
Awesome.
Okay. And this is a really important one. Lead by example. Okay. If you're in a committed relationship or you're dating and there's somebody that, you're interested in, lead by that example. Show them the arguments, but show them the kissing and the making up, right? Really try to show them relationships and what they look like. And that relationships are not only geared around sex.
I love that.
And that's my 6.
Awesome.
I sped it up.
And I'm glad you did, because I kind of also wanted to quickly address the whole mental health of our children, because it's a different thing that's going on right now. It's just different. They're not out there hugging and talking and playing. It's like they're all confined. I mean, if adults is having this mental health breakdown, how is it affecting our children? And how can we fix this? I know it's different, but how do you think as parents we can, reel it in and try to figure it out?
And that's the thing. Mental health is super important in these times right now. And you're right. We're thinking about adults and not ourselves, or not our children. And we got to start talking. Kids show stressors in different ways. They could do it by food, not eating or overeating, right? They could do it by constantly crying. You have kids that weren't crying before are now crying a little bit more and very emotional, and and not really connecting or understanding why they're crying. We have kids that used to sleep on their own and now they're sleeping with their parents, like 11-year-olds that have come back into the bed. We got to look at those little signs, not watching the things they used to watch or not interested in the activities they're used to be interested, snappy, not speaking a lot. You got to look at your child's behavior in order to identify whether or not they've changed. Because if we don't see those little things, and it's so difficult because, again, we're going through our own mental health crisis as well, so it's really checking ourselves before we can check others and check our children. But one tip, if I can leave you with, is start getting your child to journal. You should journal too, but also start getting your child to journal, whether it's a daily thing, because they're home now and they're all there. Get your child, there's so many journal prompts, but get your child to journal how they felt their day was. Or if they're in that space, have them journal so that you're seeing what is happening. And if they can't place it in verbal words, maybe they can place it on paper. And we could do this with pictures. We could do this with, there's so many gadgets, or the gadgets have so many apps that you can use to draw these pictures. Art is such an amazing way to try to see how your kid is reacting to the crisis.
Natalie, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. You know what? You have left so many beautiful nuggets through this episode. So I'm just going to reiterate and kind of tighten up everything right now. So Natalie, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
It was a pleasure. It's just an eye-opening and a refresher to hear us having this authentic conversation about our children. Because as I mentioned earlier, children are just little people. They are human.
Yep.
All right, Natalie. So thank you for coming. So
no problem.
Well, the nugget that I'm going to leave right now, audiences, we have to be fluid and open and authentic with our children. They also have feelings. And I remember I was going through my thing once, and one of my daughter, I think she was 8 or 9 years old, and she came to me, and just like Natalie said, we're talking about writing. She says, "Mommy, start writing down things. It's very cathartic." So we need to start paying attention. We have to. Mental health is real. As adults, we can't even carry it on our shoulders, much less these little people. We have to pay attention. We have to be aware. We have to ask questions, because everything right now, due to COVID, situations has changed big time. As human, we love other humans. We like to interact. We like to have fun. But right now, we're all home. And for those persons who don't have family or relative, that they can't even pick up a phone call or have a face call to have a conversation with, they're suffering. So I need people to start listening and reaching out to friends and family and our children. So just to reiterate, going back in terms of when is the best time to talk to your children about sex, Natalie's suggestion is from the minute they can speak, which is about a year old. Call your anatomy for what it is. It is vagina and penis. Talk about it. Talk about everything that these children are going through. That's what we are here for. We are leading them in the right direction. We want our children to come to us, ask us questions. We don't want them to depend on social media and everybody else. And we're supposed to have a space that anyone and they can come to and talk to us. It's about being open and authentic and loving to our children, and let them know that, you can come and talk to me at any time. If this is a conversation as a parent that you can't understand, you can't speak about it because of whatever issues, try and give a family member or a relative or another friend that your children can speak to. The conversation needs to be had. It has to be had in the home where they're safe, or where they should be safe, and not outside on social media. Because I was talking earlier about, you make one click. The internet can be very addictive. And we do not want our children to be clicking and go to the wrong places. And then they're going to probably end up on Pornhub or whatever site that's out there. And they're going to be seeing these things. And then their little body's going to be curious and not understanding that everything that they're watching is probably fake. And I know some adults don't realize it's fake, but it is. And then you have these little babies seeing the same thing and have no idea what's going on. but we want this conversation to have with us as parents, so we can lead these little children in the right direction. So I know we still have a little bit of time. 3 minutes. 3 minutes. And so, this is very important. This was an awesome topic. This is an awesome topic. So, so let me just tell a little bit about myself. So I've been doing sex and sexuality for the last 3 years, 10 years actually. And it's about self. So I'm starting to talk about being open and authentic. So we're taking a lot of sex and sexuality from the physical realm of things. So we start to talk about feelings and how to feel and being authentic and flow and enjoying the journey, right? So that's what Savage Desire is all about. And I have a motto for every woman that before we all transition to wherever we need to transition, we're going to all have amazing orgasms and understanding the body and the flowing of how energy works. We're going to talk about Tantra, breathing exercise, breathing through orgasm. We could be a walking orgasm. People don't realize this human body, this human form. It's an orgasm walking. But if you don't understand, you're not gonna experience. You're not gonna experience it. You're not gonna experience it at all. So you just join me every Tuesday at 8:00 on iLive Radio, so we can talk about it. Let's talk about orgasm. Let's talk about sex. Let's talk about feeling well. Let's talk about just being and just being mindful of where we're going and where we're coming, and to realize that we can get rid of the baggages that was thrown on us, that we can release it. This is where choices come. We can choose to change, or we can choose to sit back and don't do anything. So now is the time to choose to change and choose to understand who you are and what you were created to be. We were created to be human, walking, orgasmic being. Listen, you guys can visit my website at savagedesires.net, and I'm open. Follow me on Instagram at savagedesiresds, or find me on Facebook at Donna Savage. And yes, Savage is my right name. It was a God-given right, so there's a reason why I'm on here. So let's talk about it. Join me next Tuesday at 8:00 on iLive Radio. Yeah, I'm gonna have 3 more. So let me know on the replay if you listen to this. And please join us every Tuesday at iLive Radio in Toronto. We're all open, listening and enjoying and breathing orgasm. So it's good. All right, so we only have a couple seconds left. So see you next Tuesday at 8:00 right here on iLive Radio Toronto.
Hello and welcome to the promo for all